Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to cover adding print functionality to your desktop. Going back to the trim down GNOME install video, a user commented asking about printing and pointed out that it doesn't work out of the box like the standard install. So I'll cover that here, and I'm also going to cover the requirements to get printing working in Plasma 5. I tested a standard full install and noticed that the printer settings component is not present by default. And so while it does not tie back directly to the minimal install video I did, I'll run through it since KDE is a popular desktop. Then I'm going to cover one more option that'll work in most graphical environments that don't have their own specific print component. And also the print system itself has a web UI option for managing printers, so I'll demonstrate that as well. So starting with GNOME, all we need to do to get that up and going is install the cups package. So I'm already here on my GNOME demo desktop. So if we install cups, and so before that's installed, we actually get an error here or a little sad face that tells us, sorry, can't perform this operation. So you won't see add printer until cups is installed. Also, if you log in as a normal user, when you open settings, you might have to click unlock here and that before you can perform any operations. You're not seeing that here, and I don't have to do that because I'm actually connected over XRDP. And so there's some Polkit rules that don't allow remote users to make those changes. I put some rules in place to just remove that for print operations. And so with cups installed, all we have to do is click add printer. And then it will search for directly connected and network printers. And there's my printer on my home network. So go ahead and click add. And we're ready to go. Now we should be able to send jobs to the printer and we can manage some of our print settings. And we're all set here. The network printer on the same subnet was automatically detected when I added it. I don't have a directly connected printer to demonstrate, but that should populate and be available on the system. Now I'll walk through the steps of adding print functionality to KDE. And as I mentioned earlier, I actually tested out a full install of KDE, not using the trim down method as demonstrated in a previous video, and the print management function was not installed by default. To get set up with printing on KDE, we have to install cups and another package, cups, and then the KDE component is print manager. So once all that's installed, if you had settings open, you'll have to close and reopen settings to actually get the print management setting to show up. So now we have printers. And then if we click here to add new printer, we get failed to get a list of devices forbidden. So for KDE, if the user isn't running as root, you'll have to add the user to the LP admin group, or that will work properly. And once that's all set, now we're able to actually add the printer. And so I can see my network printer here has been auto-discovered. Yeah, this is the one we want here. Go with the generic. And so now we're all set, and we can go ahead and click finish. And now we're all set with our printer, and we can also manage some of the settings here through this set of options right here. And so that's KDE. Next, we'll check out XFCE. So over here on XFCE, this option should work on most desktop environments. I haven't tested it myself on everything. I know it does work with GNOME. I'm pretty sure it works with KDE. So it should, like I said, it should work with most things. So that is the system-config-printers, and we'll need to include cups with that to get it to work. So we'll go ahead and fire that off. And once that's installed, now in settings, there should be an option for printers. Now print settings. And you'll have to click unlock here. For our password. Click add. Should auto detect our network printers. And there we go. And we want to use the option for DNS SD. Should automatically find the correct driver, or in our case, generic will work fine for this printer. And I don't want to print a test page. I already know this works fine with my printer. And we're all set with installing the printer. We can also right click and check out properties, and that will allow us to change some of the settings here. So you'll have to go through, it will obviously be different depending on the printer. And so now that we're good here, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the last option. And that option will be universal with any system, and because it's done through a web browser. And so as long as your printer is detected there, you shouldn't have any problems adding it. I'm just going to go ahead and remove this one here so that it's not there when we go to the other method. So if the cups web utility is installed, we can hit it over port 631 on our host. And so in order to manage printers, if we click administration, we can click add printer. And I'll just enter the root creds here. If you're not running as root and you don't want to enter your creds here, you can avoid that by having the user placed in the LP admin group. I'll just use root for this demo. I'm going to go ahead and select my printer. And actually, I want to go back here. Yeah, I want the DNS option here. So it doesn't specify there. You may have to click back and forth to get it to add the protocol that you want. And actually, this is just high level. I do plan on potentially doing a video that gets more in depth with that stuff down the road. But for now, this is just the basics of getting it added to your desktop. And so here we're going to go ahead and pick generic because that's what works with my printer. You'll have to pick what works with yours. And generic PCL. Add printer. Printer is added. And from this interface, we can adjust printer settings. And of course, this is all going to depend on your printer. It will be different for different models and features. So I'm not going to get into that too much here. There are also options to adjust the print server settings itself if you're serving an office or business type network. That can be done from here. I'm not going to dive into that here. That's something I want to cover in a future video, getting more into the command line tools for cups, as well as covering some of the concepts to manage printers out in a, in a more business style or larger environment than a home network. Also view the status of your print jobs from here. So if you want, you could totally skip installing something directly to manage printer settings. You could just use this tool. And also the documentation is pretty good here. There's a lot of information about how you just manage basic printing all the way up to how you would actually handle this in a larger environment. So if you do get stuck, that definitely has some good hints for pointing in the right direction. And with that, hopefully this gets you up and going with the basics. Adding printers should be pretty painless in general. It's usually not too bad these days. You might run into some issues you have to work through. And so I do try to answer questions. If you do run into this and you're getting stuck with your printer, leave a comment and I'll try to help you out. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching.